All right, what's up, guys? How we doing? So I just saw Sonic 3, and this movie had me extremely hyped. Not only with just bringing in Shadow, who's one of the greatest characters from the video games. The first two really shocked me. I didn't see them in theaters because I just kind of wrote them off as being, childish, cheesy, not as cool, especially when they had that first design of Sonic, that set the internet on fire. Bringing in Shadow and, adding to the classic characters that we all know, along with obviously Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and just seeing him on the big screen and all the things that they can do with him fighting Sonic and fighting them, and just his story, like in Sonic Adventure 2 or Shadow the Hedgehog, all these games that they can take inspiration from. It's just really exciting. I will say though, I'm kind of slightly disappointed, not from what Shadow brings to the movie, but just other things, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So in this third entry, we have Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails reuniting against a powerful new adversary, Shadow, a mysterious villain with powers unlike anything they have faced before. With their abilities outmatched, Team Sonic must seek out an unlikely alliance. Once again, we have Jeff Fowler returning to direct, and we have Josh Miller, John Whittington, and Pat Casey as our team of writers. And once again, starring Jim Carrey, Ben Schwartz, and a new face, or new voice, I should say, with Keanu Reeves. Now, let's just start off with the casting of Keanu Reeves. I mean, it is absolutely perfect. His voice, his tone, it completely just blends in and goes with the character of Shadow, all the trauma that he's been through in his past, which we kind of learn about in this, doesn't go too much into detail, but we did enough. And Keanu Reeves just embodies all of that just so well. His voice acting is absolutely on point, and he just has that grittiness to his voice that just someone like Shadow, someone who's a badass villain, it just adds to everything that made Shadow cool. And you have it be Keanu Reeves, and it's just amazing. And, of course, Ben Schwartz also comes back and kills it as Sonic. I think he really sounds almost identical to the voice actor who was in all the old video games, late 90s, early 2000s, from Sonic Adventure, all those games. And I believe his name is Ryan Drummond. Ben Schwartz kills it, sounds very much like Sonic should. Colleen O'Shaughnessy and Idris Elba also kill it as Tails and Knuckles. But I will say, Jim Carrey in this movie just, I don't know, something about his performance in this one. I mean, I know he's kind of silly and zany in the other two as well, but he just hits this threshold in this one for me that just kind of goes over the top to where I didn't enjoy it. It's too much. He's just doing his classic Jim Carrey shtick in this, along with the other two. But in this one, I feel like it seems like he doesn't really have as much to work with. Like, we've seen pretty much everything that his humor can really offer. Like, there's nothing new that he can really do with the character. And then they add in another version of him. Jim Carrey plays Dr. Robotnik's grandfather. And then you just have two of them. And then it's just like maximum silliness, cheesy overload, and it just, by the end of the movie, you're just so annoyed by it, like just so sick of it. There were still a few, semi-funny exchanges between the two characters that Jim Carrey plays, Robotnik and his grandfather, but they just get like a small chuckle, or at least out of me they did. My theater wasn't really laughing that hard either. But Jim Carrey definitely has fun, as he always does. I think he does enjoy playing this character, and that definitely comes through, but I just wasn't a fan of this. A lot of the humor just wasn't landing. It just felt a little too childish, which I understand. I know these are technically going to be kids' movies, but I also think a lot of the target audience for a Sonic movie is going to be people my age who grew up playing these video games. All these 4 or 5, however old these kids are that are going to see it now, the parents are taking them, they don't really know Sonic. They didn't grow up with him. So I think you should still kind of aim more towards, an older audience in some sort of way. You can still have that childish humor, whatever you want, but I think it just needed to be dialed down just a little bit. We also have Tom and Maddie Bat, played by James Marsden and Tita Sumter, and they are sidelined for a lot of the movie. They don't really have much to do, which I don't necessarily mind because the movie is at its best when we're focused on the characters that we all know. Specifically in this movie, when we're focused on Shadow, everything that he's been through, all the fights and the battles between Sonic and all the classic characters. They do come into play, though, kind of late in the second act when they're asked by Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles to help them out with basically a heist. And, they have a little bit to do here and there. But I do like how, Tom is that driving force for Sonic, He loves him. He's one of his best friends. He's the first person that I think he met on Earth when he came here in the first movie, if I'm remembering correctly. So he's kind of just that emotional driving force for Sonic, and something happens and then Sonic loses it, which was awesome. And I will say a lot of this movie is just kind of forgettable, unfortunately. Every scene that doesn't involve Shadow or Sonic or the team, you're just like, you just won't remember it. It's not memorable. Learning Shadow's past and everything that he had been through, 50 years ago when they locked him up, in this liquid, like I said, learning about all that and understanding it and seeing it, all that is great. It's awesome. Even if it is one of the most tried and true tropes in probably any movie ever, somebody loses somebody, they turn evil, they're just engulfed with rage, and they can only see revenge, and that's all they seek out. But still, you have to tell a story, and I think that's where this movie also kind of just falls a little short. They're trying to follow this, formula. It's all the same. It still does make you understand, though, and relate to the character as it should. And the fact that it's Shadow, it's just awesome. And I will say this movie looks really good, as do the other two. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, especially Shadow in this. They all look great. The CGI blends in well with the real world. And the design of Shadow is so amazing. He looks great. It's so spot on. And when him and Sonic are going at it, like in the trailer, they're going head to head in the sky. All the fight scenes that we do get, they look fantastic. Especially the third act. It's just an all-out battle. It's all just fight scenes. And they all have a very nice video game quality to them, which, of course, this movie should, Especially the last scene, there's a fight in space. And it just makes you feel kind of like a kid again, especially with someone my age growing up with all these games. I played all of them, Dreamcast, every single one. And that is without a doubt when this movie is at its strongest, Shadow, Sonic, the whole team teaming up together. What you came to the movie for, to see Shadow, to see Sonic. And we just don't get enough of that, though. That's one of the biggest negatives. We do not get enough of these fight scenes. And I do know a lot of that has to do with the movie's budget. If the whole movie was just CGI, Shadow, Sonic, the whole team just only focused on them in space, wherever it is, that would cost an exponential amount of money. Way more money than a movie like this is going to have in the budget. And I do understand that, but man, when the scenes are as cool as they are in this movie, the fight scenes that we do get, you just can't help but having that be all you want. Like, you just want more. Like, you could literally never have enough action fight scenes between Sonic and Shadow. It's just too cool. But this movie still encapsulates the video games, what Sonic should be, what we all know it is, and overall, it's a very entertaining and enjoyable movie, without a doubt. I remember playing all the old video games. Sonic Adventure 1 is my personal favorite. Played on the Dreamcast all the time. I remember I was 4 or 5 years old probably, but honestly, one of my earliest video game memories, if I'm being honest. I remember playing with my cousins, I love that game, Chaos. I was obsessed with Sonic. Like, even when I was a kid, I would play soccer, first, second grade, whatever it was. I would literally run like Sonic. Like, I swear to God. So Sonic will always have a special place in my heart. So yeah, overall, guys, if you're a huge Sonic fan like me and you enjoyed the first two, I still recommend going and see this. Definitely in theaters, seeing Shadow, all these battles on the big screen, nothing's gonna beat that. It's still a fun, entertaining ride, Sonic being Sonic, but Shadow absolutely steals the show, not only because of the character so awesome, but Keanu Reeves' voice performance and just his presence just adds so much more to the character, and it's perfect. The storytelling is a little familiar, it's lacking in some certain areas, but that's not gonna detract me from, not giving this an overall positive score, not overall liking what this movie gave me. So I'll give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. But yeah, those are just my thoughts, guys. I appreciate you watching. As always, my name is Zach. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever you want. Let me know what your favorite Sonic video game is. And as always, I will see you on the next one.